Should we keep playing the blame game? The history of Africa is not complete without the narrative of the transatlantic slave trade. It is true that a lot was taken from Africa, ranging from our human resources, estimated above 12 million people, in which it was said about 2 million lost their lives before reaching their destination. Also, Africa's social life, including her religion, culture, and identity to her geographical and political rights, were ripped off. Welcome to History Africa. Here we focus on rejuvenating African narrative, exposing the doctrines, customs, culture, and practices of Africa. The damage of the transatlantic slave trade that lasted from the 15th to the 19th century is immeasurably devastating. Beyond doubt, Africa's economy was brought to a standstill as a result of the senseless war between communities, kingdoms, and warlords, which was fueled by European slave seekers through the provision of petty incentives like firearms, gunpowder, mirror, umbrella, and other inferior finished or semi-finished commodities. The war promoted an atmosphere of lawlessness. Also, Africa lost her valuable population, her major resources for massive production of agricultural products, which was the occupation of majority of Africans as of that time. A larger percentage of people taken captive were young men and women in their childbearing age. The slave trade at its peak turned Africa from being humans to commodities. After the so-called abolition of transatlantic slave trade, another technique for occupying Africa was introduced. This time, it was termed legal and acceptable. Imagine your property being shared without your consent and permission. Africa was partitioned among various European countries. This apportioning led to legal occupation of Africa's soil and the use of direct and indirect methods of governing the continent. This led to the collapse of several African kingdoms and empires who, as of that time, were already flourishing in trade, commerce, agriculture, and technology. The moat of Benin Empire, the pyramids of Giza, Egypt, the terracotta of Nok culture, the Leptis Magna, Libya, the bronze discovery of Igbo-Ukwu, which predates European Iron Age, among many other African man-made wonder, evidence and counsel the sponsored ideology that Africa had no history before the coming of the Europeans. A lot has happened to the African race. Apologies have been tendered by some countries that devoured Africa during the transatlantic slave trade. Whether these apologies are genuine or not, it does not justify, neither does it amend the havoc of the past. Even though fingers are still being pointed back to colonial masters for influencing the current political and economic state of their former colonies, we cannot and should not shy away from the truth that we have a major share of the blame. The big question is, should we keep playing the blame game? Should we keep staring at our scars, refusing to move on? Should we keep revisiting the problems and ignoring the solution? Should we keep holding on to our past beliefs and values from colonialism, or should we move on? The president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, has repeatedly warned Africa of allowing the West define her values. Africa is currently morally degrading because she has lost touch with her moral standard as a result of imitating Europe and America, and this has erupted devastating consequences on the social life of Africans. The level of corruption and poverty in Africa is unimaginable. Many African countries live in abject poverty, not as a result of insufficient natural and human resources, but as a result of poor leadership and corrupt government officials who are saddled with accumulation of wealth annexed from national treasury. It is undeniable that between the growth and development of every country is a government, and the efficiency and proactiveness of the government depends on the agglomeration of the citizens and their glossy ability to hold the government accountable for their actions. Africa now has 54 sovereign states, supposedly free from external control, but yet majority of these states have recorded several corrupt governments that have gone unpunished. These corrupt officials live freely and are still in governance at the detriment of the development of their country. Now, Should we keep playing the blame game? Should we keep pointing fingers at the past, ignoring the present? What about continuous ethnic rivalry between Africans? What about unending boundary dispute? What about the act of terrorism and genocide? What about the difference in social status? What about gender inequality? On many occasions, historians, anthropologists, and analysts often forget to apportion blame to Africans for contributing to the success of the transatlantic slave trade. It was recorded that majority of the European slave seekers bought their slaves from Africans at the coast. This implies that Africans were largely responsible for the capture and sales of Africans to the Europeans. In other words, Africans also sold Africans. This does not justify the fact that the transatlantic slave was majorly sponsored by Europeans, and it doesn't neglect the fact that Europeans also participated in kidnapping Africans. But this is just a call for Africans to also look within and realize that even at the cost of the trade, we were used. If we keep apportioning blames, pointing fingers back to history, excavating and rejuvenating the wounds of our past without thoroughly thinking and walking our way forward, we may only end up dressing our wounds again and again. If we keep ignoring bad governance and excusing corrupt government officials without holding them accountable for their actions, it is time to correct our mistakes or keep playing the blame game. Thank you for being part of this study. For further contribution and question, please make use of the comment section. Do well to click on the subscription icon, hit the like button if you like this video, and the notification icon to be notified when we upload a new video. This is History Africa.